ideas for sharing your research. And Georgia is going to start off with some things that she has done in her family to share her family history research, and then I'll jump in and talk a little bit. I just want to encourage all of you to think about the fact that maybe it's time to get our stuff out of our computers and out of our file cabinets and put them in a format where others can access them. And Georgia, it's all yours.
Okay. First of all, mine are not high tech at all. They don't compare anything to the kind of presentations you've been seeing in this afternoon. But I want everybody to think about who their audience is. So in my case, my particular case, my audience are my 8 nieces and nephews. I haven't yet shared outside that circle, but everything I've done has been a way of connecting them to our heritage. So about 15 years ago, the first thing I did was create Yaya's Greek recipes. And it's only about 20 pages long. It's the recipes, the food they had growing up. The one thing I did was on certain recipes, put in this Greek meat poultry dressing is Papui's mother's recipe, or the Paximadia recipe, that one is Yaya's mother's recipe, or the pastizo is Auntie Lane's recipe. So there's some connection there with people they know. I mean, you can go out on the internet and look up recipes all the time, but it isn't Yaya's recipe that you're going to get. So they are still using this to this day. Next. Okay, then about, I don't know, 10 years ago, my father passed away and my mom wanted me to put together something for the kids. So again, connecting with my nieces and nephews, I always try to make it personal to them. I did a book called My Papui and Yaya. Next. And what I'm just going to go, I'm not going to show you the whole book. I'm just going to show you some of it so that you understand my thought process. I started out with my father. I shared the few pictures we had from him as a child. Next. And then like his younger years, his teenage years, when he was in the service, his buddies. Okay, next. Then I stopped and I went on to my mother and her childhood pictures. Next. Her when she was a young lady, and then there were other, I'm not showing every page, so there were some of her teenage years also. But then when my parents started dating, so there's a picture of them standing on the beach, and then here's a picture with their buddies at a Halloween party I think they were having. Next. And then here's their wedding picture and their first home that they were building. Next. I ended this, there are a lot of pages in between, but I ended the book with about 10 pages of pictures of my nieces and nephews with my parents. So that there's a connection they have there. They can see that connection later on. And I wanted to give them something they could hold on to, they could pass on to their kids. Okay, next. Then in 2019, I worked on the project, Our Greek Roots. The first time I'm sharing any of my research with them, really. And again, thinking about my audience, I had to think through what is it that they're actually going to be interested in when they see it. If I gave them too much information, it would get tossed aside and nobody would look at it. So next, Carol. Here they are. I dedicated it to them so that now there's a connection right there. There they all are. Next. And I created, okay, well, first of all, I wanted something I could manipulate easily and do what I wanted to. And at the time, I felt like PowerPoint was my best option. It was so easy and I was so familiar with it, I could use it. I created a tree on PowerPoint. Now, my nieces and nephews, okay, first of all, all 4 of my grandparents are born in Greece. My parents were born here in the US. My brothers and I, none of us married Greeks. So my nieces and nephews, luckily their mothers wanted them to be immersed in the Greek heritage, but I'm not sure how much they really knew. So they had all seen pictures, but I didn't know if they could really identify with them. Next, Carol. And even though they knew that my grandparents all came from Greece, I'm not sure they really understood where exactly in Greece they came from. Next. Also, did they really understand what life was like in Greece in the early 1900s? So what I did was I took an excerpt from a book called The Arcadians of America, where it was an interview with someone from Arcadia, which is where one of my grandparents is from, and what it was like. Next. Just to give them a feel for things. And I included some pictures of Greece at that time period. Next. Then I went in and started presenting some information to them. So here's my grandfather's grocery store that he had with his brother. Here's a picture of inside the store, and here's a map of where the store was located. Now, I tried to make every slide as, okay, you got carried away there with your finger, didn't you? Go on to the next slide. That's all right. Okay, so I tried to make every slide as interesting as possible. I didn't want to just put up documents because they'd get bored right away. So in most cases, here's like my grandparents' marriage certificate. Here's a picture of their wedding picture. And here's a picture of the Holy Trinity Church, established in 1897 in Chicago. And it was the first permanent church in Chicago. So Greek Orthodox Church in Chicago, so that they could kind of relate to the whole thing. Just showing a marriage license was not going to have any interest to them. I also made sure that I typed whatever was on a document so they could see it, because it's very hard to read any of these documents, no matter what they are. Next is you.
It's me. Okay, so we have seen some terrific photos here of what George's collection. Let's keep talking about additional ways to use photos as a basis for documenting your family history. Get a picture, write a couple of paragraphs about it. Include who, what's going on, when, where is it happening, why is the event happening? Get older family members to talk about their photos and record what they're saying with your phone and transcribe it later. We now have this great technology. Let's use it. So let's take a look at some, just two examples. Here's a picture of me mowing the lawn with my yaya. So I love this picture. I don't know, it just brings back so many memories to me. And I found it when I was digitizing my parents' photos. And I just wrote a couple of sentences about it and put it with the photo. Here's another one of my dad. I don't know if you can see him up here on the ladder, but this is the first home that he ever owned. He was born in Brooklyn and was a city boy. And when I was 5 years old, he bought his first home in New Jersey. So our family moved there, and I don't know what it is with my dad, but he loved to be up high from the time he was young. And even when he was in his 70s, he'd be up on the roof cleaning gutters and examining roof tiles, and drove my mother crazy. But I just wrote a little bit about my memory of my dad up on the roof and the fact that he's just not afraid of heights. So if you do this, if you just take a picture and write about it, and that's fine, you know, maybe you do one a week or one a month or something. After a while, you're going to have a collection of these types of pictures with just a paragraph or two about it, and you can put them together in a simple book. Or you can get a little more elaborate. This is the first family history. Well, no, it's not the first one, but this is a family history book for my father's parents, my paternal grandparents, that I just finished in December of this year. And I kind of went all out with it. I had been collecting documents and pictures and stories from years, and my trips to Greece enabled me to access documents that I never thought in my lifetime I'd ever have. And I just felt like I needed to do something to get this together. As Georgia said, what's your audience? My audience was my cousins and my grandchildren. So when I started putting things together, the book wrote itself. Obviously, you're going to write about the family. You're going to include whatever family pictures you have. And for our immigrant grandparents, they took these beautiful formal portraits that I don't think many people do anymore. But if you're lucky enough to have some, you definitely want to include them. As Georgia said earlier, understanding our ancestry is important. So in this book, I have a little bit about Sparta and of course our ancestral village, Ioseowanis. And like with Georgia, I'm only showing you 3 or 4 pages out of a 90-something page book. But I just want to give you an idea of some of the things that you can include that will make it interesting for them. What did your family do for fun? Where did they go to just chill out? Our family was in Brooklyn, so they went to the Catskill Mountains to Sparta Manor. Thank goodness we have some wonderful pictures back from them. So as you can see, they're just arranged in a kind of a simple format. And each of the pictures does have a caption to it. It's tagged so that people who look at the book can understand who those people are right there on that page. Write about their ancestors. Here's an example of some documents that I was able to get for my great-grandfather. And I was just thrilled to have them. He was from Ioseowanis, but I'm 100% sure that he got up there by traveling a well-known route from the Mani region up through the Taygetos Mountains and then down into the Valley of Ioseowanis. So I went ahead and put a picture of a tower house there. I don't have any pictures of my great-grandfather, but on the web, you can find wonderful photos to depict the villages and what life was like. And speaking of what life was like, how about their daily life? What did they do? How did they live? What type of clothing did they wear? What did their houses look like? We all know that they use donkeys and mules for transportation. You can say that to somebody, but when they see a picture of it, it makes it look really real to them. Now, there's other types of books that you can create. One of our Village History Project members is Marjorie Lynn Kyriopoulos, and she published a family memoir called Heartstrings, which I ordered and I'm in the middle of reading. So your book can take any format for Marjorie Lynn. It's a memoir of what she remembers about her family. Another way you can share is to set up a website or a blog. A website and a blog are basically the same format, the same templates. They just present the information in a little different manner. Keep it simple. WordPress is a terrific site where you can go, you can set up a free site or free blog. They have thousands of templates. Just choose one that you like and start adding a couple pictures and a couple posts, and boom, you have a website. It's findable. People will search for whatever the title is of your village or your family, and Google will find it, and it will be accessible forever if you keep your blog, either maintain it or have someone in your family maintain it. If it turns out that it kind of lapses, then it will be archived in what's called the Wayback Machine. The Wayback Machine is this internet kind of algorithm that goes out there and creates caches, pages of websites and blogs that are no longer in use, or that are in use, but you can access older things that are no longer being kept up. So either way, if you put it on the web, it will be there ad infinitum. We also, of course, have our Facebook and social media. Now, the biggest issue that Georgia and I have found with our Facebook pages is that stuff disappears. People will post a picture, people will write something, and everybody gets all excited, and there's 500 likes and 85 comments. And then 2 days later, you can't find it anymore. So what I'm learning about Facebook and social media is to connect it to your blog or to your website. And when you post something on your blog or your website, if you have a companion site up, you write a post that says, hey, here's, you can either share your post or you can say, come to my website and see the latest article that I've written about my great grandparents. And then you post it, you give a link, people use the Facebook post to go to the website. So to me, it's more of a way to update and keep people informed of what you're doing rather than that's your main source of information. And we cannot forget about family trees. There, you can set up family trees on any one of these websites. You can upload photos, you can upload stories, you can upload documents. You can make your website, your family tree private, or you can make it public. Either way, get your stuff out there where other cousins and people who are researching in your village and your family can find you.
Okay, now I just want to say one other thing. It isn't just about your cousins. It's about your cousins' children, your
Yes.
children, your grandchildren. When they go to think about looking at stuff years from now, is it available for them to see?
Absolutely. And we know that on family trees that they will be there. Especially if you put a family tree up on a major site. We hope that they will remain in business. We do know Family Search will always be in business, the Family Search tree. We heard from Daniel at MyHeritage earlier. MyHeritage's CEO is Gilad Japheth, who has been a genealogist since he was 13 years old. His focus is family history and genealogy. He's not a businessman who's come in and founded this website to make money. We know that that will be around. So be careful where you put your information, and do try to share. Georgia, any final thoughts? This is our last slide, and it's just kind of a summary of some of the things that we talked about.
No, I'm just going to say it's important to share, not worry about how fancy it is. If you get intimidated by the high-tech stuff, like I did before, you can just, as long as you're sharing, that's what's important.
Right.
Gregory, you joined us.
I have.
Gregory, give us your thoughts before I stop my screen share and on sharing.
No, I do agree with Georgia that sharing is what matters. And it doesn't matter if the format, how good it is, nothing. Today in this last session, we saw how many different ways there are to share your work. Ioannis is writing an ebook. Paula has a website and a Facebook group. John has a website. So you can share in many, many ways. Just go ahead and share.